The next question comes from the YWCA of Queens on the topic of education. So this is also a two-parter, the first one about after schools and the second about ESLs. So the question about the after school programs, the question is, why was the after school program funding cut? And how many children and families will be affected? Were alternative funding sources or partnerships considered? How will children still access safe educational after-school environments? Is there a plan or timeline to restore funding? And the second part or question has to do with the ESL programs. How will the ESL funding cut affect immigrant communities that rely on these classes for language access and integration? Was there any community consultation before the decision? What message does this send to immigrant families? And are there public data or reports justifying this cut?
I think many of you have known me for a long time. I don't like to be political. I don't like to just point fingers and not provide answers. I don't say that everything is the Republican or the other party person's fault. But this is an example where I will put blame where it deserves to lay, because there was no consultation. And not only that, as Congressman Swazi mentioned before, when we pass laws to allocate these grants, it's not just a decision that one of us makes and an organization or New York State gets money. These are laws that are put together by both Republican and Democratic members of Congress. It's a compromise that we make for these funds. And for the president to just in one full sweep, like cancel these grants, that's not legal, actually. So no, there was no consultation, not even consultation with the people like me and Tom who actually wrote the bill. So it is outrageous. And if you're talking about cutting waste, fraud, and abuse, these programs are not wasteful. They are not, fraudulent. And so as soon as we heard about these cuts, Tom and I, as with other members of Congress as well, we wrote a letter to the Department of Education saying, all of that, and to ask the Education Department to please release I think it was $6 billion of funding for grants that help so many of our communities, including, the ones that the programs that you mentioned before. And so, we will keep working on this, but actually there have been lawsuits, and I want to thank our own Attorney General, Tish James, who joined other attorney generals in other states in literally suing the president on this freeze. And because of your advocacy, many of you reached out, and because of the lawsuit, the Education Department announced just last week, I think, that they would unfreeze this funding. So as Tom said, you have to keep speaking out. We're asking a lot of our constituents and our families, we know, but that's an example of how it has helped and it is working.
And so the work that you're doing is really important. You should turn the volume up so Grace can hear people applaud for her after she speaks. She never gets to hear the applause. They're clapping for you, but they have it on mute, so you're not hearing it, Grace.
It's okay, you can have it.
So, this administration does not believe in providing funding for people who don't speak English well to learn how to speak English. They believe that that's DEI, they call it, diversity, equity. So they don't believe that there should be money provided for education to teach people who English is not their primary language. So they want to cut that funding. And, for all these different things you've talked about today, say, what's Congress going to do about this? What's Congress going to do about that? There's three things you can do. One is legislation. The problem is, right now, we're in the minority. So we have to convince Republicans to join with us, and we do sometimes. Sometimes we're successful. But we have to find Republicans to join with the Democrats to help us to pass legislation that hurts the folks in our districts. But, quite frankly, Grace and I have a lot more people that don't have English as their primary language in our district than a lot of Republicans do. And this is an important program to us, and it may not be as important to them. So legislation is one thing you can do. The second thing you can do is litigation. And as Grace pointed out earlier, Congresswoman Meng pointed out earlier, there's over 200 lawsuits against this administration saying you're not following the rules. Now, there's always lawsuits against the president and the executive branch. There's never been this many lawsuits because they're doing so many things that just do not seem to be legal. And this is an example of that. And third, so legislation, litigation, and then mobilization. That's what you've been doing. That's what we need more people to do, where you get out and you advocate and you say, we want this, we need this, we don't like what you're doing. It's so important that the people are involved. If you leave it up to just the politicians and the political parties, then the political parties are just going to look out for the political parties. And that's one of the things that's killing our country. We need the people involved in our democracy. And the fact that you are thoughtful, educated, especially as demonstrated by your questions, and paying attention to these issues is very important. It's the only way that makes our country and our democracy work. So again, I applaud you for doing that. And yes, the money's been restored recently, but they're going to try and do it again in the next budget.